Welcome to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast, where we deconstruct the methods, marketing, and mindset of successful business people and chiropractors from around the world. And now your host, Dr. Richard Day. Hello once again. Yes, I am Dr. Richard Day, and this is Chiro Business Mojo. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to check us out and to check this podcast. And to those of you who have shared it with others, we are so honored that people have shared this and enjoyed the podcast. So if there's anyone else you can think of that you want to share it with, please do so. Today I'm going to talk about something I watched the other night with my wife on Netflix. It is called Tony Robbins, I Am Not Your Guru. Now, if you're not familiar with Tony Robbins, he is a motivational speaker. He's the guy who walks on fire. He does a fire walk with people who come out to his seminars. He makes his living, a very good living, doing just this, having seminars multiple times a year, really all over the world. So I was somewhat familiar with Tony Robbins prior to coming into this. I knew he had some business books out, and I had heard his name. He got his start in the 1980s on infomercials, and I remember him when I was growing up, seeing him on TV. Well, for me, I wasn't really growing up. I was probably more of a teenager at that time. But I remember this guy on TV talking. And in the 90s, he sort of switched over from an infomercial pitchman and became a motivational speaker. So I have always, my thing with gurus is I always thought, I don't know if I need that. And not that I know everything or couldn't benefit from it, but I really thought, what can I get out of this? I think really when it comes down to it, they kind of don't, they just tell you, I think you need to get your beep together and that's it. So, you know, in my life now, my wife is the one who tells me that. So I don't need to pay anyone to go do that or go away, you know, and take a trip to be told that. But in any event, I thought, I want to watch this. I'd heard good things about it. I think it's been on Netflix a couple of weeks. So we watched it the other night, and I got to tell you, I was blown away by a lot in it. And I think probably now because I've had some life experience, especially in coming in contact with patients and dealing with the public, really my whole life. I was in sales, then I became a chiropractor, and I've talked to people for many years now. And I've seen a lot of people that have problems. I know that it's out there, and I'll talk more about that later on in this podcast. But a lot of what Tony Robbins was talking about really resonated with me, and I think there is a need for people like him to go help people. So I took some notes when we watched it. I'm going to share those with you. This is sort of my review of what I saw and things that I thought when I was watching it. And I think there are some definite connections to what we do as chiropractors. They really resonated with me, and I hope they do with you. So who has he helped before? Who's hired Tony Robbins? You may have heard of some of these names, even if you haven't heard of him. Bill Clinton, Andre Agassi, and Hugh Jackman, the actor who is Wolverine. So in the 80s, like I said, he was an infomercial pitchman, and then he went on and wrote some books. Some of the books he wrote, the first one that really put him on the map was Unlimited Power, The New Science of Personal Achievement. And after that, his follow-up was even larger than that. It was a bigger seller, and that was Awaken the Giant Within. So the movie runs about 2.5 hours. I would say it's kind of a long watch. It is a 6-day event that is chronicled, and the first part of the event is, I think, talking to people about what brought them there, and then having people that have some problems who are willing to stand up and share them. He starts working one-on-one with them right in front of the group. So there's group support there. There's a lot of love in the room. There's a lot of other people who share similar experiences as well. And I think, you know, like in anything, once you see one person do it, it makes you more willing to stand up and talk more openly about what's going on with you. So I can see how this group event really strikes and hits home with people and encourages them to make changes in their life. But I got to tell you, I was a bit sort of unnerved at first, I guess surprised more than anything, that he uses some spicy and powerful language. I've seen Tony Robbins speak a few times on CNN and things like that, and I just didn't realize that he used these words so often and so colorfully. But he goes on and he talks about it, and what he says is that he is trying to break through people's internal talk, their internal chatter and dialogue. And there's words in every language that are the taboo words, and they cause us all to sort of stand up and pay attention. And that's what he's trying to do. And I can tell you that it looks like it has the intended effect. The look on the people's faces when he tells them things and sort of right in their face directly, it's getting through to them. And hopefully it's making an impact definitely on that moment. But hopefully it's going to make an impact beyond, you know, a lot of we all can do things right for a while, right? So as soon as they leave the seminar, he doesn't want them to go back to doing exactly what they were doing before. He wants it to really stick with them and for them to ruminate about the changes that they need to make in their life. Well, the first person I want to talk about was a 19-year-old girl named Sienna, and she had an eating disorder is what it amounts to. And I thought to myself, really? That doesn't seem like that big of a problem. I know it's all relative, and to her it seemed big, but there were a lot. Let's face it, there's a lot of people out there with a lot bigger problems, right? But she started talking, and it was a great way to sort of see how he walks through a person's issues through a series of questions. So he asked her why it's important to her, and it's because she wants to look good, and she wants to look good because she wants to be loved, and he sort of traces it back to a daddy issue. That's really it, plain and simple. And in fact, it looks like from what I see in the movie that a lot of the problems that he helps people through do, in fact, have root in how they were treated and how they were raised as a child from a very young age. And I think the psychology really backs that up. I think that is accurate and that's true. And that's where he comes from. So he talks about those needs, and he talked about his own childhood. And I thought this was interesting. He said that his mother was an alcoholic, and she abused prescription drugs, and she abused him physically. And that he learned from those how to be the person he is today. And I think the quote he says is something like, if she were the mother I wanted, I would not be the man I am today. I thought that was very powerful. I thought that all of us can look back on our childhood and say, I wish I would have had this, or I wish my dad or my mother would have been this way or that way. And most of us make that an excuse. I, it was my upbringing. I was never taught that at a young age. Well, my father did this and my mother did that or didn't do this. It becomes such a crutch in life. What he did was he took a 40,000-foot view, really stepped back as if he was watching his own life on a big movie screen, and said, life happens for us, not to us. And that was another powerful thing that he said that I thought really resonated with me, and I think it probably did with a lot of people. And he also said, if you're going to blame someone in your life for your problems, you've also got to give them all the credit. So his mom was a, pill popper and a drunk and abused him. But like I said, he would not be the man he is today if it were not for her. And I think that's a very powerful thing that we can all take and learn from. So the movie goes on, and he talks to some other folks, and they cut to some behind-the-scenes stuff. He's talking with his staff about people that are there. They have everyone fill out a questionnaire, and they read through and they talk about some of the tougher cases that he wants to tackle. And there were people that were suicidal. In fact, he has everyone who right now in this room is thinking of suicide or has, and people start standing up and raising their hands. There was someone there who had been brain injured, and they are going through the list of people who have written him. There are people that have been brain injured. There are people that have been permanently disabled, autoimmune problems, physical and sexual abuse. There was a really powerful story of a girl there who had been in a cult, and the cult was to get closer to God, you have to have sex with all of the priests or something like that. It was just crazy. But she had the support around her, and afterwards people who had heard her story came up and talked to her about how touched they were by what she shared. And it really looked like it was the person, she was suicidal when she was there. And it really looked like this was a good turning point in her life to sort of heal and maybe take the rest of her life in a better direction. So he goes deep. He goes deep on this is what I'm getting at, which I think, if you're going to pay anywhere, I think his seminars are from $600 to $6,000 or $7,000 for the 6-day version. He better go deep. He better get in there and really solve some serious problems, right? So here's how he does that. This is kind of the pattern that I noticed as he goes through. And they're all things I think we can do on our own, even if this year isn't the year we can afford to go to Fiji and be part of his seminar. So whose love did you crave as a child? And that's where he started with the 19-year-old girl, Sienna. Whose love did you crave? What hole are you trying to fill now? What did that result in? I think that's a good question. I think that forms and molds all of us and shapes who we are as adults. And if we don't like who we are as adults, it's good to look back and see what's missing today that seed was planted back when we were children. He also wants to get into what is the big question. What are we asking in our life at this point? So what is it you want to do? Do you want to lose weight like Sienna? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to be better in business? Do you want to be a better husband, father, mother? Once you figure that out, he says, what's keeping you from it? Start writing it down. Start talking about it. Start getting it out there. I also saw him doing things, he uses phrases, and he wants you to do, well, first of all, he does affirmations. He does his affirmation early on. And this is an affirmation, and it's not the Stuart Smalley affirmation where you're looking in the mirror saying, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and by golly, people like me. It's more like, here's what he does. He says, I am. You make it present tense, and you write it down. He doesn't mention this, but this is probably what it says in one of his books because I've seen it other places. I am lovable. I am successful. I am happy. I love others unconditionally and they love me. I help people when they need help. They give me help when I need help. I am rewarded for my hard work. I have an abundance of life, an abundance of love, and I am attracting those qualities in my life. I have an abundance of wealth. So that's something that I've done in the past, and like any habit, you do it and you kind of can fall in and out of the habit. I'm going to start doing it again. I'm going to write it down. And he has these guys, they start yelling it. They get in each other's faces and they yell things, and it looks a little bit ridiculous. But he says, again, he's trying to break through that internal dialogue, that chatter we all have. And I think for most of us, it's a negative. Our internal dialogue isn't saying wonderful things about us. It's saying you don't look good enough. You don't work hard enough. Who do you think you are? That sort of thing. So I get what he's doing and why he's doing it. It all makes sense to me. He also talks about what are your rules. So once you have those values, and let's say it's as a kid, what you think about yourself, you live within those rules, right? You think nobody likes you, so you behave as if nobody likes you. And if you go to do something, well, I don't know if I should do that because, nobody likes me. So you live within the limitations. He talks about that. What are your self-limiting beliefs that you have? So much of what he is telling people by the end is, look, it's headspace. It's what's in your mind that's holding you back. So much of this isn't real except to you. And it's really a reprogramming and changing who you are and who your beliefs are. And this is hard work. And this is one of the things that really all of a sudden hit me as I'm watching the show because I am a chiropractor. So we talk to our patients, right? They come and they've been doing something for 10 years, eating badly, not taking care of themselves, not exercising. And they say, hey, I'm here and I've developed this problem. Can you help me? Sure. Well, okay. How many visits is that going to be? Oh, I guess it might take whatever, 12, 9, 8, whatever the number is. But it's not going to be one. Usually, if it was, great. That'd be fantastic. I would have a line around my door. Usually it's more than one visit. Well, patients don't always get that. Right? They're used to this quick world. They go through McDonald's, they get that quick food, it's fast food, boom, instant gratification. And you mean I can't come in here and you can't fix me? This 10 years worth of abuse and neglect I put on my body all at once? No, I can't. And so I use certain phrases when I talk to my patients. I'll tell them, wellness is a process, not an event. I can't get you well in one, boom, magical adjustment. It doesn't happen that way. I wish I could. I also tell them, I use analogies. Like, let's say you want to be a great golfer. So you took a lesson and now you're Tiger Woods. That doesn't happen that way. You take lessons and you practice, and it takes dedication and hard work and skill. And we're so willing to do that when we want to learn a new skill, like play golf or play guitar, or we want to go on a diet. We realize that, hey, I ate right once, right? I'm losing, isn't that great? I'm losing a lot of weight. Shouldn't I be really skinny now? No, it takes more than one meal. So that's exactly what he's talking about. You have to repeat this over and over and over for it to take effect. That's why you need to have an affirmation. That's why you need to write it down. That's why you need to verbalize it. You need to say it to make it real. You are rewiring and reprogramming yourself for success. So some other key takeaways. He's not a surface level guy. He says he gets up in people's faces and yells and cusses and does his thing because it's personal. It's real. And think about it. We're in the age of Facebook and texting and social media, and we have 100,000 friends on Facebook. Well, I wish I did, but we have they're not real friends. They're not people that we talk to in our world every day. So he wants to bring it to a real level. And I thought that was important. And that's the exact same thing we are doing with our patients, right? They're coming in our office telling us their problem, and we are laying our hands on them and helping them to heal. So if you can have real conversations with people and connect with them on a personal level, that's what people really are craving and wanting in today's society, because so much of it is gone, and it looks like we're going towards a direction where that's going to happen even less. The affirmations, I've kind of hammered that home and beat it to death, but it breaks the patterns of how we think. And that's really why he does it and why he wants you to do it. Another thing he said is that our beliefs and values control the way we live, and most of us are busy surviving. We're so busy surviving that we never design a life. Now think about that. Isn't that true? When we're in chiropractic school, our life is planned for us. We have 3 or 4 years of just busting our butts to get what we want, but where we need to be in the morning to when we go home to when our paper is due or the test is going to be taken or all of it. It's planned out for us until we graduate. And suddenly after that, oh my gosh, what do I do? Am I going to be an associate? What am I going to do? We don't know. Some of us do, but a whole lot of us don't. And the same thing is happening in our lives. We're just sort of not living a life by design. We're just rolling with it and surviving and on that hamster wheel going. And he makes a great point. I mean, yeah, it's the getting ahead happens in the margin. And what I mean by that is a lot of time and energy can be spent staying in the same place. Treading water is what I call that. Getting ahead requires extra. So one of the things we're going to talk about in future episodes is how to do that, how to get extra out of your day, how to get more time, how to be more productive in the time we have, because we all have the same amount of time, right? It's the great equalizer, but we don't all spend it the same way. And obviously he's very efficient in how he has spent his time over his career. He also says that most of us are unaware of the patterns that control our lives. You know, we think it doesn't stink, and we just keep doing it over and over. This is true. Oh my gosh. This hits me all the time. And especially as I get older, every day sort of melds into the one before it, right? I woke up, I took a shower, I brushed my teeth, I got ready, I went to work, I did this, I did that, I came home, I had dinner, or I did some chores or whatever. The weekend came, I went to bed, I woke up and wash, rinse, repeat, and it started all over again. It's like the movie Groundhog Day. That's most of us. We don't get the pattern that we're stuck in. And that's just the pattern of our lives. What about the patterns in the way we think? What about the patterns in the way we act? We don't see it. We don't get it. We're oblivious. So we keep doing the same thing over and over and over. Again, he's trying to break that pattern. He says, we all get what we tolerate. Isn't that true? I mean, think about it. If you wouldn't tolerate something, you would probably get a lot less of it. Maybe none at all. People treating you bad, disrespectful towards you. It's all a question of what we tolerate. And I was struck lastly by all the baggage we have. At the end of the day, I'm watching this, and it's group therapy. These people need therapy. That's why they're there. They just went to do it in a group setting in Fiji, which I think is pretty cool. If you're going to go to therapy, you might as well do it with the beaches out there and in a beautiful setting. And I've noticed the same thing in practice. Patients come in. I'm treating them for pain, but I'm finding a lot of people have a deeper pain than just the physical pain. And they're interconnected. Not everyone wants to talk about it, and I don't want to talk about it with everybody. I'll never forget, I had a patient come in one time, and I said, well, how's your pain been since the last time I saw you? And she just started crying, and I thought, oh my gosh, this neck must have been real bad. And she said, my husband left me. And I was sort of speechless. It wasn't the type of pain I was asking about. But it's what came out. And again, we're in a position of trust, and she felt like she could trust me, and she shared this with me. And I was an hour late coming home. My wife was texting me saying, what's going on? Dinner's getting cold. But I was there for this other person. So I saw the parallels between humanity in general, right, who Tony is talking to, and who we are seeing as chiropractors that walk into our office day in and day out and lay down on our table and ask for our help. So I recommend you check it out. It is on Netflix right now. Again, it's called Tony Robbins, I Am Not Your Guru. And it's completely worth your while to check it out. So thanks so much for checking us out today, and we will talk to you on the flip side. Thank you for listening to the Chiro Business Mojo podcast. For links to what was discussed in today's episode, check out the show notes at chirobusinessmojo.com. And be sure to jump on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review if you liked what you heard. We'll see you next time.